Those of you who follow my channel know that I'm a fan of the 10mm cartridge, as well as being a 1911 fan. For me, a 1911 chambered in 10mm just happens to be a combination that's hard to resist. My gun safe would attest to that. Nevertheless, they also share space with a number of other 10mm handguns that are not based on the 1911 platform, and we'll talk more about those excellent handguns at a later date. As far as 1911's chambered for the 10mm round go, the Wesson Razorback is really hard to beat. The Razorback falls into the semi-custom class of 1911's. Granted, Wesson 1911's are not exactly inexpensive, but you actually do get what you pay for, and perhaps just a bit more. I have several Wesson 1911's in my collection, and have always gotten my money's worth out of them. Every part that goes into a Wesson is best of breed and carefully hand fit. You'll find no MEMS part in this 1911. Owning a Wesson has made it really hard for me to justify spending considerably more for a full-blown custom 1911, but that's just me. Based on my experience with custom 1911s, all you really gain for the additional money is a bit of bragging rights. If you find some sort of value in that, then by all means invest your money in it. Personally, I'll stick with a Wesson. Another good investment has been this Rock Island Armory Ultra FSHC, which is certainly no slouch when it comes to 10mm firepower. This double-stacked 1911 has a 16+1 round capacity, which is more than twice that of a standard 1911. And yes, I prefer to carry it in an outside-the-waistband holster, and don't look so shocked. Do try reeling in a bit of that concealed carry mania for just a minute. Time for a little personal background. I'm someone who prefers spending my life far away from big city lights. There's simply no way I could ever see myself living in a big city. That's just not for me. Yeah, I do conceal carry at times, but it isn't all that necessary because where I've chosen to live. If I'm out and about, I'm far more likely to be accosted by the local wildlife than another person. For me, a comfortable outside-the-waistband holster is the way to go, especially when my biggest tactical consideration of the day is remembering to never piss into the wind. Another 10mm that I've become rather fond of is this Iver Johnson Eagle XL. It's a ported long slide or 6-inch hunter length 1911. If all goes well, I plan to take this along on a mule deer hunt later this year. I've taken deer with a 10mm round in the past. If I can get the drop on a nice buck this year, I intend to fill my tag with this Eagle XL. Although I haven't owned this Ruger SR 1911 quite as long as some of the other 10mm in my collection, I've been rather impressed by its performance. This Ruger is a well-made, accurate, and reliable 1911 that can easily hold its own against much higher-priced 1911s. I put a lot of rounds through this Ruger 10mm and have yet to discover anything about it I didn't like. Let's face it, the 10mm round packs a lot of punch. Unlike the lower working pressures generated by the 45 ACP, the 10mm is a high-intensity cartridge with significantly higher working pressures. Based on my experience, 1911s with forged construction always seem to better handle this round than 1911s with cast steel construction. I have noticed that after several thousand rounds, the wear is a bit more noticeable on a 10mm 1911 that has cast construction. Those, like this Wesson with forged construction, so little or no appreciable wear. I always expect to pay a little more for a 1911 with forged construction, but in the long run it'll pay off in a longer service life, especially if it's a 10mm. Then again, if you're someone who only shoots a couple of hundred rounds a year, you can pretty much disregard everything I just said about forged versus cast construction. Well, that's all I'd really planned to say about 10mm 1911s today. But if you'd like a bit more information about one of the 1911s you saw in this video, I've uploaded detailed reviews on each one. If you've a mind to, you can check out those reviews. Until next time, Practice often, shoot straight, and thanks for stopping by.